If your name is Beyoncé or Jay-Z, you're caught in the middle of a growing scandal that has everyone talking. The question burning across social media right now is simple. Were they or were they not at the Justice Reform Alliance gathering with Jared and Ivanka Trump? The couple insists they weren't there, but the photos say otherwise. Yet, as the internet debates the pictures, many are missing the real story hiding beneath the surface. Something deeper might be happening, something that could shake Roc Nation to its core. Here's what's really going on. There are whispers of a civil war inside Roc Nation itself, a quiet power struggle that might be far more serious than anyone realizes. And at the center of it all stands Desiree Perez, the woman some believe is the real brains and force behind the empire. If those whispers are true, Jay-Z may be getting pushed out of the very organization he helped build. Now, that sounds intense, but there's more. Let's lay out the facts clearly. Jay-Z wasn't just some random celebrity attending a charity event. He's one of the pivotal co-founders of the Justice Reform Alliance, the foundation he helped create brick by brick. This was his mission, his project, his legacy. Alongside him, they brought in Meek Mill, arguably one of the most talented rappers of this generation, and, depending on who you ask, one of rap's most unpredictable voices. Then there's Michael Rubin, who has spoken openly about how, in his view, Black people don't support each other enough and often tear each other down. Ironically, Rubin himself stood firmly by Meek's side, showing what loyalty really looks like. And of course, we can't forget Robert Kraft, whose name once made headlines for that massage parlor scandal everyone seems to have conveniently forgotten. But all that aside, the focus right now is squarely on Jay-Z and Beyoncé and what really went down at that event. See, Jay-Z built this movement from the ground up. He was the co-host of the event, one of its key figures and the driving force behind its success. Yet curiously, when Ivanka Trump made her post about the gathering, she mentioned every other co-founder, Robert Kraft and Michael Rubin, but not Jay-Z. Not once. That omission wasn't a mistake. People tried to brush it off as a coincidence or a strategic move because of prior relationships, but something doesn't add up. The photo of Beyoncé and Jay-Z at the event didn't come from some random paparazzi either. It came from one of Beyoncé's most credible fan pages, known for getting exclusive images before anyone else. For that page to post a photo from inside a private event, it likely had to come from someone close to Beyoncé's own camp, and it's hard to imagine they'd post it without her knowledge or approval. So if Beyoncé's own world allowed that image out, maybe it wasn't a mistake. Maybe they wanted people to see it. But here's where it gets strange. Despite Jay-Z being the co-host and founder, Jared and Ivanka didn't acknowledge him at all, as if he wasn't even there. That's beyond unusual, considering he would have been directly involved in organizing the event, perhaps even approving the seating chart himself. And yet, while Jay-Z was seemingly sidelined, one person stood front and center: Desiree Perez. Desiree was there, making bold moves, and so was her daughter-in-law, who has now been named the CEO and new face of the Justice Reform Alliance. She was seated front and center, smiling and chatting comfortably with Ivanka. That alone raised eyebrows. Where was the respect for Jay-Z, the man who helped create the entire organization? People began asking, whose charity is this now? Who's really running things behind the scenes? It didn't stop there. Desiree's daughter-in-law's promotion to CEO marked a major shift in the organization's power structure. Up until now, the faces of the Justice Reform Alliance had always been Meek Mill and Jay-Z, with Jay-Z serving as a 50% founder. But suddenly, new leadership has emerged, and the spotlight is being redirected. Something's clearly changing within Roc Nation, and those changes might be far more calculated than anyone expected. Let's not forget that whole situation with DJ Academics, when everyone was talking and laughing, breaking down leaked lawyer screenshots and all that chaos. It was wild to watch, but behind the noise, there was something far more revealing. The lawyers involved in the McGonifick case, who were representing Roc Nation, seemed more focused on reporting back to Desiree Perez than to Jay-Z himself. Jay-Z's name wasn't even mentioned in their communications. And that raises one serious question. Why? Because what's really happening might be a civil war inside Roc Nation. Is Desiree Perez orchestrating a hostile takeover, or has she secretly been in control all along? Jay-Z has a long history of giving up stakes and control as long as he can remain the public face. And by that, it doesn't mean he isn't involved, but his ownership often ends up being smaller than the image suggests. Just look at the Barclays Center deal in Brooklyn. Everyone thought Jay-Z owned the arena, that it was his empire, his crown jewel. But in reality, his stake was a tiny super minority share compared to the real investors. That doesn't mean he didn't make money or gain influence, but financially, he wasn't the powerhouse many believed he was. He was the face, the brand, not the main controller. Now people are asking, could the same thing be happening with Roc Nation? Will Jay-Z remain the face for much longer? Because Desiree seems to be positioning her family in key leadership roles across every branch of the company. Roles that used to belong to Jay-Z's circle. She's putting her people in charge of everything that was once his domain. And think about this. Desiree used to prefer working quietly behind the scenes, playing the role of the silent partner in projects like the Roc Nation Justice Reform Alliance. But lately, she's been stepping right into the spotlight, appearing front and center in nearly every major photo and event. She's not hiding in the background anymore. She's standing proudly where Jay-Z once stood. Now, maybe this is all speculation, maybe it's coincidence, but it's hard to ignore how things are shifting. And the most glaring moment of all, when Ivanka and Jared Trump attended the event, they didn't show the slightest acknowledgement or respect toward Jay-Z, even though he was not only the co-host, but also the original founder of the very charity they were invited to. That silence speaks volumes. It makes you wonder if everyone's been looking in the wrong direction. People assume Jay-Z is still pulling every string behind the curtain. But what if it's really Desiree who's been in control this entire time? Could she have been the strategic mind behind Roc Nation from day one? Remember, Desiree took over Dame Dash's role after he and Jay-Z went their separate ways. When Jay launched his first major business venture, the 40/40 Club, Desiree's own father was listed as a 50% owner. That detail alone shows how deeply intertwined her family has been in Jay-Z's business moves from the start. And there's one more thing that can't be ignored. Desiree Perez's close connections with Donald Trump. Their relationship runs deeper than most people realize. It's another thread in this complex web that raises the question, has Desiree been playing the long game all along? Trump pardoned Desiree Perez, and that alone says a lot.
Think about it. Trump doesn't hand out pardons to people who disrespect him or fail to show him loyalty. So if he granted one to her, that speaks volumes about her connections and influence. And now it's worth asking a difficult question. What does that mean for Jay-Z and the future of Roc Nation? Because let's be honest, this situation is starting to look like something much bigger. Either Jay-Z was never truly in control, or Desiree Perez has been the real power all along. The brains, the money, the strategist behind the entire operation, with Jay-Z simply serving as the face of it, much like he did with the Barclays Center. Everyone thought that was his empire, but in reality, the major investors and banks were running the show, while he stood at the front representing it. If Desiree positioned herself as the mastermind, the one controlling the funding, strategy, and key decisions, then Jay-Z might just be holding on to that public image for now. But the question remains, for how much longer? Even with the Justice Reform Alliance, something that was always seen as Jay-Z's project, the power dynamics seem to be shifting. Desiree's daughter-in-law has now been named CEO and chairperson, and while that could be nothing more than a business move, it feels like a signal that Desiree is taking full control. Is this the beginning of a Roc Nation civil war, Or is it the final stage of a hostile takeover where Desiree no longer needs Jay-Z to front the brand? Nobody knows for sure, but one thing's clear. There's tension brewing beneath the surface. Then there's the other layer. Remember those sudden right-wing attacks that started targeting Jay-Z out of nowhere? He went from being respected to becoming almost a persona non grata in certain circles overnight. It's strange how quickly that shift happened, which leads to another question. Who was really behind those attacks? If you connect the dots, it might point towards someone with strong Republican and political ties, someone who could reach directly into those networks. And who fits that description better than Desiree? She's known to have close connections reaching straight to the White House, and it's entirely possible she's aware of or even in contact with the very people orchestrating those moves. Now, none of this is confirmed, but it's worth watching closely, because something about this entire situation doesn't feel random. From the pardon to the leadership changes and those mysterious political attacks, it's clear there's a deeper story unfolding. And that viral photo showing Beyoncé and Jay-Z possibly seated at the same table with Jared and Ivanka Trump might just be another piece of a much larger puzzle. You can debate it all day, but the real question is, what's happening behind the scenes? Because right now, it looks like there's a quiet power struggle unfolding. Either Jay-Z never had as much control in Roc Nation and the Justice Reform Alliance as everyone believed, or something inside the empire is shifting. Sure, Jay-Z's still a billionaire, still securing the bag, still living his life, but this doesn't feel like a man fully in charge. Maybe he's content letting others run things while he sits back, but one thing about Jay-Z, he's never been the type to play humble easily, which makes all of this even more intriguing. Something's off. Maybe it's just speculation, maybe not. But from everything we've seen of the silence at the event, the new leadership changes, the missing mentions, and those suspicious photos, there's a pattern forming. By the twitching of my thumbs, as the saying goes, something wicked this way comes. Let me know what you think. Do you believe Desiree Perez is quietly taking full control of Roc Nation? Or is Jay-Z still the power behind the curtain, letting the storm build until he's ready to strike back? Drop your thoughts below. I want to hear your theories. And if you love deep dives into celebrity power moves, scandals, and secrets, make sure you hit subscribe to Celeb World right now. Stay locked in because the truth always finds its way out. And on Celeb World, we'll be right here to break it down first.